All right, welcome everybody. We will call to order at 4:08 this afternoon. So this is the Farmington High School Building Committee Professional Partnership Subcommittee Building, November 9th, 2022. First order of business is minutes. So could I have a motion to approve the March 25th, 2022 Professional Partnership Subcommittee minutes?
So moved.
A second. Any discussion? It's been a while. It has been a while. I was trying to remind myself.
I think it was probably O and G's.
It was. Yeah. All right, are you good, John?
Yeah, good. No discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Michael Smith, you good?
Teresa Ward.
Hello,
You can hear us?
I can hear you. Yep.
He's talking to someone else.
Okay, to approve the minutes.
It's not gonna
Happy to approve the minutes.
All right, so motion passes. So we'll move on to item C, which is new business. So could I have a motion to review and approve the draft RFQP for materials testing?
So moved.
I will second, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
I think we'll pass it to CSG to kind of walk us through this. Just as a precursor, if you remember, we approved materials testing for early enabling. We did that through the state contract. This is obviously for a bigger job. So it doesn't hurt to put it out in the field to see what we can get in terms of pricing. And correct me if I'm wrong, we can always fall back to the state contract if pricing is more favorable that way.
Correct, so you can reject the bids, then we can go out to state contract if that's the way it is. This, we just think this makes it a little more competitive, maybe have, maybe one company has a competitive edge over another, whatever it might feel, need more, you don't know where anybody is in their situation, right? So we think there's value in going out to bid for this scope of work as opposed to just another state contract. And we've done it both ways on several contracts. Do you want us to just kind of go through it? All right, so if you have a copy of the in front of you, we did mimic for, we've done several RFQs through this construction project with all the third-party vendors, with OG, with us, with TSKP, right? So we've kind of honed in on and started to follow the process that we've approved in the past. We created a legal notice that we did with the same as with the third-party contract. This is sort of cut and paste a lot of some of the same information. We're asking for the same 15 copies of proposals. Everything's going to go to Kat. Kat's going to respond to questions. She'll forward those questions to us, and we'll get answers so that the flow of communication is the same that it has been in the past. We've the only thing that's different about this is we're combining, so we're doing the RFQ/B, so we're not doing the RFQ process because we don't feel that there's a need for an interview process with these groups, right? They're all going to be the same. So we've asked them for some standard qualifications, and we'll go into a little bit more about what we're asking for. You go to the table of contents, we've put a project description, which has been the same in our other RFQs. Identify the scope of work. We'll talk about the timeline in a bit, and then the proposed format. We always include the selection process, terms and conditions, and then any insurance requirements. You'll note that we identified 4 attachments to this. There will be an E, so D and E will be the statement of special inspections. One will be for FHS and the other will be for central office. So there'll be 2 separate statement of special inspections. There'll be 1 project schedule, so sort of working backwards up the list. That project schedule will most likely be a link attached to the RFP. It's like an 80-page construction schedule, but we want them to understand where we would expect those certain inspections and testing to take place throughout the project. So, and we're going to want them to own the schedule essentially. And then we have 2 bid forms as well, so we'll go into that. The next page is the project description. It's just similar to what we've included on other RFQs. The scope of services goes into what they would be responsible for. Generally, we need them to be on call. They own all of the testing inspections, so it would be all the lab work. So understanding what they do for us is they'll come in, they'll do soil samples, they'll take samples of the soil, make sure they'll test the compaction. So the contractor has to compact the earth so it's hard enough for the foundations to sit on, so that when they pour the foundations, they keep adding weight, that it doesn't just buildings start to sink, right? So there's levels of compaction. The concrete needs to be tested for hardness and for the mix and all that stuff. So they take all of these different tests and literally test the materials, and they'll review all the steel structures and all the connections and the moments and the welds. They're going to inspect all of that, right? So it's all part of quality and assurance that the building that you're paying for is the building you're getting, and that the contractors are held accountable. So if concrete sits in a truck for more than 90 minutes or whatever it is, and it's a certain temperature of the day, like they record all that, and they can refuse the load after that. They can say this concrete's no good, and you can't use it, and you've got to get another truck, right? So that's why they're there. So they own all of the inspections, all the materials testing. They need to be on call. We've asked them, when we get to the bid sheet, you'll see that we've asked them for full day prices, half day prices, those kinds of things, because it's really going to be up to ONG and the subcontractors to call them in as an as needed basis. So they'll say, we're pouring concrete tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. We need an inspector here all day, or we're only going to pour for a half a day. So, and then they track, George and his guys will track when they're coming in. They'll note on their daily reports, all of that. So they need to be on call, so to speak. If you go to this page, which is called selection timeline, or I should say, any questions on scope of work before we keep going?
So you have no incidental costs, no travel costs, anything like that. You want that all-inclusive cost within this, correct?
Right, they're going to own their travel, correct. So if you note number 11, though, prior to the very end of the scope of services, the geotech engineering and special inspection services are going to be performed by others. We need to confirm that before we send that out.
Okay.
So next, we got a selection timeline, RFQ, RFP issue date. So if the building committee approves this tonight, we could get this out as soon as tomorrow, but we would have to do public notice. Okay, you'd have to let us know if tomorrow is doable, or should we adjust this schedule a little?
I think we should adjust it a little bit, just because I still need to hear back about insurance requirements and all of that stuff. Just to make sure that, so I would say if we issue it early next week, we still have some time in the timeline for proposals too, because the idea would be in our December meeting to hopefully, review an award. So I think we still have some time. If we push it to next week, we have some time.
We have some time. Okay, so as work is happening, right? So the sooner we onboard them, obviously the better this work is starting, but we do have that purchase order in place still. So we do have the purchase order from the enabling plan, which we didn't spend down. So there's dollars in that purchase order that ONG can bill against, or use that current vendor, which might not be the final vendor, but use them for testing. So if we were to issue, when's the December meeting?
I just looked it up. The December meeting is December 7th.
Okay.
So even if we push it and have it due, the 5th or the 6th, it's really, that's enough time.
Okay, So we'll just move these.
So you want to have it due like on the 5th?
Okay. So we could push everything to Mondays, like,
Yeah, but I think we just
Because
keep the agenda very limited to this.
so it could be 14th, 28th. Right, so that's after Thanksgiving, or we could say the 29th, because most people are off.
I have questions done before Thanksgiving, no?
Yeah, so questions would be due,
And it gives them, doesn't give them a whole lot of time in between, but we can certainly do that, yeah. Well,
you have
actually, you could
questions
do it
due
right before,
on the 18th. You put it out on Monday.
we put it out on the 14th and have questions due, I would say.
I would say the following
21st.
Monday.
Yeah,
The 21st, okay.
so the 14th, then the 21st. Gets us a few days to get answers back before Thanksgiving.
And then December 5th.
It's a tough holiday. It should be some questions. There should, yeah, I'm not too, so you're right, there probably won't be a whole lot. We did identify that we're asking the successful bidder to be expected to begin with immediately on notification of award. Next page, the proposal format, we're asking for a cover letter, their project experience, team experience, and references, and really the bid form. We're not going crazy with a lot of references, but it's not much different than we would ask in an RFQ.
Is it pretty much the same group of testing places?
You're gonna have the same group of testing agencies that are gonna respond. You might get, so for example, I did talk with Michael from TSKP today, who said, throwing it out there, Michael Horton's office, who's the engineer, they have the capacity to do the testing of the rebar. So if we wanted to pull that out and just have Mike Horton test the rebar, report out on that, or be the special inspections, what was the word that he said? Basically like a consultant. So if you wanted to put an ad service to Mike Horton's, he'd be like their coordinator. He would coordinate all the testing inspections, gather all the reports, put them in together. It would be set aside. It was something that you're asking these folks to do anyway, but what it does is it kind of offers another eye on the inspections and what's going on. So on a big project like this, we could consider it, or we could pull it out of this scope and add it to Michael Horton's scope. But, I'm gonna recommend that we put this out now and kind of see what comes back and have a further conversation about whether or not the committee wants to add service on top of what we're asking for special inspections. I don't know what the cost of that would be, or the value add from the dollars.
We don't have a time requirement other than what we're.
Right. So, we could include a link for plans and specs, but my guess is they're gonna focus on the statement of special inspections. So we could add
We don't have to, I was just wondering.
we could add an attachment for drawings, plans and specs.
How specific is the statement of special inspections? Like, how much of that is the estimated quantity gonna vary for all of these?
So to be honest with you, we received it at
25 today.
25 today, so we haven't even looked at it. Okay.
Just my question is, if somebody puts in estimated quantity of 100 versus somebody that puts in 50, then the 50 is gonna look like they're a lot lower bid,
Right.
right?
Well, it's mostly unit, right? Unit pricing.
Yeah.
So, but you're right.
But if we had that as a given,
Yeah.
if we had a
We'll have to
given
look at
of-
the statement of special inspections and see.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right.
I mean, method can't analyze it, it's just gonna be a lot more difficult.
We're not getting them apples to apples.
Right.
Hey guys, this is Chris. Sorry, there was a ton of traffic on the highway. I just wanted to jump in about the quantities. So the bidders will not fill in the estimated quantities. We'll use arbitrary quantities to evaluate after we receive the unit price proposals, and then we'll be able to evaluate because their unit prices are going to fluctuate like within $1 or $2 for the most part amongst each other. But they're not gonna, as part of their bid, they're not gonna say, oh, we think we're gonna need 50 concrete cylinders, and then somebody else is gonna say, oh, we can do it in 40. They're not gonna put in the quantities. They're just gonna tell us how much a concrete cylinder is, and then we'll go through and arbitrarily put in some numbers that are realistic estimates of where we'll be, but then you'll have an idea of kind of where everybody shakes out.
So Chris, should we take this column right out?
Either that or put the quantities in before we give them the bid form, right?
No, put the quantities in after.
We should
So we
remove
should
this.
so take the column out of the sheet.
I don't know what you're looking at. I'm looking at the proposal
form.
format.
On the bid as unit,
the
and then
package.
estimated quantity at the end of the,
Oh yeah, that estimated quantity could come out, yes. Sorry, I didn't realize that was in there. And the extension, we're just asking for unit prices. Because it's also dependent on construction schedule and there's so many variables in this that each one of these contractors could look at it, a different way and make their own assumptions.
Right.
Because there's combinations in there where, if they're out there at the same time, you could do concrete and rebar and soils and rebar and soils and concrete. There's just, all we're asking for is unit prices.
got it.
So, any questions on the proposal format or the selection process? Just basically identify the same selection process we've been using. General terms and conditions. Same thing. A lot of similar language. And then under section 7, we have insurance requirements. Kat, you're just going to verify that the town is good. With what we've identified.
Did you say Horton was doing the structural steel inspections?
He's the structural steel engineer, yes. So all Michael said today was if you wanted to, you could pull the rebar out of here.
Right.
And have Michael,
But the structural steel,
just the rebar, but
okay.
yeah, no. Go ahead, let me see.
No, on the last page, we have structural steel in there.
Yeah. Yeah, all the same thing with the
That's all done.
like, we want it all in here. Let them give us a unit pricing if we decide to say, you know what, we're gonna pull it out of your scope and we're gonna have our engineer team do it. And then there's just a bid sheet. So we're gonna pull the estimated quantities and the extension column out of there. And then we'll plug those columns back in after we have the numbers so we can do the comparisons.
Regionalized special inspections is listed twice.
Where,
Last page,
One says half day, one says full day.
right, no, here. And,
It's one for high school and one for.
Yeah, so we have to do one bid form for each project.
right, so they're the same, right,
It's the same form, it's just,
Yeah, one is the high school, one is central office.
And the unit prices will probably be the same, you just need to have it for
Probably. Yeah, we just have to have it
auditing
for
purposes.
extra.
That'll make it easier for us if we are.
And now it doesn't go.
So, yeah, I'll make these changes. I'll add in the statement of special inspection to schedule stuff, and then I'll send it off to you. Unless there's, I don't think there should be anything for the insurance requirements, but if there is,
Yeah.
let me know.
He just takes a look at it,
Yeah.
and if he makes any edits, I'll incorporate those, and,
Okay.
then we'll post it in the legal notice, all that stuff.
So that's it. I mean, like I said, we'll include the schedule and we'll include the safety stuff. So,
One last question. In the past, when you were looking at qualification, I know you combined RFQ and RFP, we had something along the lines of any kind of ongoing litigation or litigation in the last 10 years. Is that not appropriate in this situation?
we can ask. I mean, we have, in the
Yeah.
past- we have in the
I
past.
mean, I don't add it unless we have to, I'm just saying, because I know that was one section of every other
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
under. the-
partnership, yeah, under the bid.
like the proposal format.
Proposal format, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe between team experience and references or after references and before bid form.
Yeah.
You know, we have the question from other RFQs, so we just go back. and
Okay.
we'll plug that. So basically, it's just.
Yeah,
previous,
Where?
Or, you know. or-
Yeah.
No, it's good point. John.
Yeah, okay.
see the motion to approve?
Does it matter if I say with amendments or I can amend this?
No, I would just say to approve as amended.
All right, so,
Loose form of Robert's rules.
sure I'm doing it right. All right, I'm not putting fingers. Okay. All right, so the motion at the table is to review and approve the draft RFQ/P for materials tested as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passed.
So this is also on the agenda for the 5 o'clock meeting. So thank you for accommodating this so we can get it done.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. You know, we kind of pulled this together.
All right, any other business for this committee? I don't, or subcommittee, I don't think there is tonight, right? You guys, you're all set, right? All right, so can I have a motion?
So move.
Seconded.
Karen?
Aye.
He said aye.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
We're gonna adjourn.